Okay, my friends, you know I have been claiming that everything there is biology, and stunningly large biology, including this moon, which is Mimas. Tethys, Mimas, and literally all the moons have a very similar structure like that. And they say, oh, well, that was an impact from a comet. Boom, and it bounced back out and left that little stalk looking out there. I say, no, that is not the case. I am going to show you what this is and all these little crater-looking things. NASA has a thing out saying, this is what you teach the kids about moons and their craters. Let's see what they say. Let's see what we have to say. Okay, so I am not teaching kids anything. This is for the general public. It's not made for kids, but that's what NASA is saying, to teach the kids this stuff. Now, I'm going to go in a little closer than NASA, but we're going to be looking at, I believe it's this picture right here. And here it is. So we're right down on this. And what do you see? You see a bunch of little craters. Well, not necessarily. You think they are, but they're not. These are little round balls. And they're sticking up, not down. The sun is coming from this direction. And that's why they're so perfectly round, and this is perfectly round. If this was not perfectly round, you'd get something like this. That one there is busted up a little bit. It looked like it was round at one time. But now you can see the shadow over here. The light's coming this way. Everything has a shadow on this side. These are balls. And they're round balls. That's why, like I say, otherwise you'd see a scruffy looking edge. These are round balls all over the place. And then there's some bigger chunks here and there that are like bigger balls, but they're basically very similar to balls. They're bumps up, sticking up. And most of them are extremely round. Well, what would cause something like that on the moon? Now, this is an extremely interesting shot of the moon. What we were looking at is the texture on top of the moon's surface, except this particular area. This is on the opposite side of the moon. We normally don't see this side of the moon because the moon just sort of tracks around with us. It doesn't spin. This is on they call it the dark side of the moon. I mean, it gets lit up when the sun hits it, so it's not like it's dark forever. It's just dark to us. We don't see it because it just follows us like this. Now, what is this green stuff? What is this yellow stuff? What is that blue stuff? And why is that red spot in the middle? And what are these two holes here, or spots? Look at this. Look at how smooth that texture is. And then we get into that little scruffy, bumpy stuff that I was showing you before. But why is this so smooth? And what is this green stuff in between the yellow and the blue? It's over here too. It's green all the way around. You see it? And why is this like such an abrupt transition between this and that? What happened there? And the same thing here and there. And why is this thing so round? I mean, and what would these two things be here? And why one is red and one of them's yellow? And the green is a very interesting thing to me at this moment, because I will explain shortly. Okay, so here's what NASA is saying they're going to teach the kids about why does the moon have craters. And, you know, it's all about impact. And there's so much debris in space, which they say it's a vacuum, but everything in space is just saturated with particles. So we know that's not right in the first place. Now, I just showed you, this is Mimas. It's a moon. And that was a tendon enthesis ball at one time, just like this, which is microscopic, extremely microscopic now in us. And that was from some gigantic creature in space. That's all I can tell you. And that's where the stalk was. Same as this. They break right here, and they leave that ring around it. And sometimes they leave a real good stalk, sometimes not so good. Depends on what kind of a tendon was. There's tendon rope style, and then there's tendon, which this is, and then there's tendon aponeurosis, which comes down and like sideways attachment. This one broke off. Tethys just pulled right off and left that ring. And guess what? You say, "Whoa, Roger, that's crazy. That's insane." Well, yes, I agree with you 100%. But guess what? Our moon is the same thing. And that I can show you some extraordinary detail, which I will right now. Okay, my friends, consider this. What if a tendon enthesis, which is a tiny little thing in our bodies, was literally moons? What if they were literally what moons are made out of, is tendon enthesis? And they break right off here, leaving a little stalk in the center like this. That would be pretty interesting if that's true. They have that same sort of surface. They say these are impacts. I say I don't think so. Now I'm just going to hit you with the shocker du jour. That's a moon, Tetchus. That's a tendon enthesis with the stalk, and I believe that's the stalk broke off. These are tendon enthesis. Every one of these green balls is a tendon enthesis. And inside of every one of those green balls is one of the Moki marbles, those little round, hard marbles. Every one of those could be a moon. All right? Can you imagine that? If every one of those could be a moon, and this is just in one area in Alaska. This is everywhere on the whole world. It is covered with these balls, and they are everywhere on the moon. Well, they're on the moon, they're on Mars, they're everywhere. And every one of these, literally, could be a moon. That's what moons are made out of, is tendon enthesis. And not just Tetchus, and not just Mimas, and not just the Iapetus, but guess whose other moon? Our moon. You see that? That broke right off of there. And I understand these things better than anybody in the entire world. I've been working on this more than anybody. I fully understand what happens here, and the the membranes and the fluid-filled highway, all of that stuff. And here it is right here. This is the surface coating of the tendon enthesis, which is edible, and plants eat that. That's called that green moss I was showing you. These are the layers of tissue. And these are, I'm going to get into extremely deep, but that's just a shocker du jour. And these colors are correct because it's taken with spectroscopy. The red is the softest impact, and then it comes up to the blue, which is the hard, which is the Moki marble inside. This is the stalk coming down, that's the blood coming in, and this is the vein coming back out. I'm sorry, that's just a fact. That's our moon. And I have a bunch of other shots. We're going to get into this very, very deep. Now, if they can do spectral analysis of this up here, they're going to find the exact same thing. It's going to be identical. You're going to have a membrane between the outside and the inside. There's no possible other way. And I believe that fluid-filled highway, where all the lymph and the bacteria and the enzymes in us live, is creating biology up on the moon. This green, I believe, is alive. I believe this green is some kind of mossy growth going on here. That's all I can tell you. And it's growing better over here because this is where you got a pretty good source of blood. It grows, it's a layer that sits right underneath the membrane. All right, right at the membrane layer, and it got ripped away. And that protects you so that you don't get invaded through your membranes into your vital flesh. And here, this is below the green, the blue, and that's the hard surface of that tendon ball. That's what it is, it's tendon enthesis. And this is where it ripped away. And there's another shot I have. Now, don't forget, this is spectral analysis. What does that mean? We have to have it as lit up. If that's not lit up, you're just going to see brown. You don't see any real different spectrum bounce back at you. But this is in the bright sunlight because it's on the other side of the moon, but it does get lit up, and that's what they're looking at now. Now, here's another one where it wasn't lit up quite so much, and we can see a whole different characteristic. You see this? The sunlight is hitting here, and you can see that as a fact because you see the shadow here. The sunlight is coming just skimming the surface, and then it gets dark way over here because it's just going past. Look at this. Look down here. You see these wrinkles? All right, you see the abrupt transition, how it goes right from here up to here? You see that little bugger right there? I believe that's an actual valve to, the red blood can go through, but the vein blood, is blue in a creature when it's alive, can only go in one direction. It's a valve. And I believe that's what you have in and out. And I think that green right there, my friends, I think this could very well be from something that was alive. I'm going to show you, they took a picture of the sunset. Sunrise, whatever it was. And I don't know where they took it from. But I think it might have been from somewhere in this area. Because I'm seeing green, and the light coming in was green, yes. But I could see layer after layer after layer, and I wouldn't expect to see that here. I would expect to see it here because we're going layer, 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 and there's literally hundreds of layers. You don't see them until you get really, really up close. Well, let me show you how many layers there are. All right, I'm just going to go right for the shocker. This is what a tendon enthesis looks like. There's a strap that comes out and it anchors this into a creature's body. I don't care what kind of creature, and they come from very small to extremely large. And it snaps right off here. And there's 3 or 4 layers, but there'll be one layer that's called the fluid-filled highway. They didn't even know about it with these pictures. These go back to before they acknowledged the fluid-filled highway. But every single different type of material in your body, from tendons to flesh to muscles to even red blood cells, have that fluid-filled highway surrounds them. They never knew about that. I believe right now on the moon, there may be biology growing in that fluid-filled highway. All right, my friends, right up front, shocker du jour. You see every one of these things here? Those are what's called tendon enthesis. Those are called tendon enthesis. Every single one of these could be literally a moon. Okay, I think I showed you this, but these are balls. These are not little divots and craters. The sun is coming from this angle, right over the top of that round ball, creating a round shadow, where these don't have round shadows because they're not round balls. Every now and then you'll see one that isn't round, but almost every one of them is, because they all look like craters. They are not. These are balls. Well, why would those balls be there? Well, why would these little round balls be there? This is why. These are tendon enthesis. That means that they lock these ropes, these straps, in position in your body so you can pull against a muscle. That's what a tendon does. And they end up with these balls all over the place that lock them in. Now, in addition to that, there would be flesh around here. When these erode out of a creature's body here on Earth, and they do, and they are big, they're everywhere. Creatures eat these. And you see them at the seashore. They call them stromatolites. They're not. They're tendon balls that have eroded out of the walls, and they're now being invaded by some kind of bacteria or fungus or whatever it is that grows there. And every single one of them has the same invasive bacteria. And I believe it lives in the body of these creatures. We have it in us. We're saturated with bacteria. I mean, thousands of species. And some of them are eating this outside ball. And that's why they grow these different, the ones up in Alaska in the fresh water are green. The ones in the salt water turn brown. They call them stromatolites. All right, settle your mind before you make any determination of what you see here. Think about what I present. Don't have pre-existing conditions set on you that all this can't be. These colors are literally real colors taken using spectroscopy, all right, which is the radiation of light depending upon what materials it bounces into. This red stuff here is sort of cushiony. Boom. It bounced back in the red spectrum, which is a longer spectrum. Then you get this yellow under here, and you see how smooth that is compared to the bumpy surface? You see how smooth that is? And now your yellow is a little more strong coming back at you. Then you're in the green here. That's right below the yellow. And the green is more impactful and bounces back strongly. Then you get into the blue, which is the really bang, it's almost hard. The harder it gets, the bluer it gets. Let's go with that. You go from here, hold on. You go from red out here to the yellow here to the green here to the blue here to the inside. So we're getting harder and harder and harder as it gets exactly what you would expect. However, why is this in the middle with red? Oh, well, that's because of the impact. No, it's not. That, my friends, is from where the strap attached. This is a tendon enthesis. Let your mind settle down. Chill out. I know it's shocker du jour supreme, but anybody that's been with the mud fossils at all understands this. Very, very simple to understand. This is the fleshiness that's on the outside of the balls. On Earth, it gets eaten and they turn into milky marbles, those kind of things, which is the hard part on the inside. All that stuff would go to membrane, the fleshy part. You'd end up with a hard ball in the center. And then they actually have these round little dots on them. You know what? Let me just show you something. All right, these are the milky marbles. And they have, some of them have bumps on them, some have little cuts in them, some have rings around them. Iapetus has a ring around it just like that. Iapetus is another moon. And they're all over. I mean, they're just everywhere. People sell them. They get $130. I don't know. I would think you could just go out. Well, I know you can just go out and pick them up. Literally, they're everywhere. Everywhere. Utah, Arizona, because it was just one gigantic slab of skin out there. They're just everywhere. Now, they're also on the moon. You call them, I'm sorry, well, they're on the moon too, yes. But they're on Mars too, called the Mars blueberries. Exact same thing. I mean, exact same thing. You can't tell the difference. Yeah, here's right here, milky marbles and Martian blueberries. That's it right there. There's no difference. And that's the hard core on the inside, after the fleshy stuff gets eaten. You see this? This is the interstitium, they call it now. It's a fluid-filled highway, and I'm going to show you in a little better detail. But this is the milky marbles. They're laying on top of the basement skin. This literally is skin. This is in the United Kingdom. And the ocean is washing away, and the balls that are stuck in this wall are falling down, and they are covered with moss, which is eating the flesh that had normally coated that when it was in that wall. It's still edible. That's what they're doing. These are not stromatolites that just all miraculously just popped out of the ground or the mud, because that is the mud, and mud is nothing more than eroded flesh. And here, it's all just washed away and ended up with the ball that's in the center. Now, in Alaska, it's all melting, and these balls are all over the place, but they're turning green. You want to see that? Hold on. I tell you, when the Great Flood happened, certain creatures got frozen quickly. Those are in the Arctic and the regions that are way up by the poles. And they froze very quickly, so they didn't transition. My stuff transitioned, turned into mud rock, mudstone, different types of quartz, to silicates and so forth. Even my goose here, Caesar Augustus, it's a goose. There's his feathers. Everything was invaded and nucleophilically substituted because of the heavy silicons and salts and so forth. However, and that's because it was boiling hot water. It boiled all the stuff out of them, but the membrane stayed. The collagen really is the key, and it's created feldspar. That's a whole other issue, but it's aluminum silicates. But the stuff that did die quickly, the gigantic creature, which this is Scorbzilla. This is from Scorbzilla. I don't care what anybody says, it's just true. And that's from his skin or whatever coating on his body. It's got to be flexible. It's got to be able to move and do this and that and come back to where it's supposed to be. That's what this stuff does. But inside the body of the creature, it's quite obvious. This, whatever's growing here, It's kind of some kind of moss, and I'll show you a little detail in a second. It's everywhere. It's on every single ball, 100%. It had to be in the body of the creature when it died, doing its job of maintaining that ball. And now that the ball's dead, and it no longer keeps getting infused with stuff, those things have to live somehow, so they've eaten off their own tendon balls. It's like a little meatball now, and they're eating them. Now, what do they look like when you cut one in half and see? It's going to have the milky marble in the center, and all of the stuff is just growing around it. And these whole herds move. They say, we can't understand it. The whole herd moves like this. No clue why. I know why. It's trying to find its way into the sun. The ones that have already been cooked in the sun start moving under, and it makes it, moss grows fat on a rolling stone. You see that? That's going to end up being a little milky marble after all of this moss is eaten. And you say, what moss? I don't see any moss. Well, just hold your little horses. There's your moss right there. And it's feeding off of this. This would have been probably out to about here. The meatball. And its roots are just eating away at it. You see it? You see the curvature? You got to look at the real subtle details sometimes. You see the curvature of this? It's rolling, quite obvious to me, this direction. And as this gets growing, it ends up going underneath, and these come around to hit the sunlight. But you can see it. It's almost like spinning like a drill, headed that way, in my opinion. Okay, I just want you to know, this is for real. This is the compositional analysis. It means, what is the moon made of? What is the moon made of in the visible and near infrared regions? That's this here, visible and near infrared. That's where they're taking those pictures and getting these colors. And this is advanced spectroscopic sensors. This is the spectrum, spectroscopic. And what did they find? All kinds of new stuff they never had any clue about. One of them was magnesium spinel anthracite. Well, let's look and see what that is. It's the same thing as here on Earth. It's just, I have the stuff coming out of my ears. I got everything that they got and more. And it's very, very simple stuff. And I have all the plagioclases and all the other different things that they claim are some kind of geology. Well, no, they're from biology. Plagioclases are the fibers that are inside of the stretchable skin, like the lung and the, well, hold on, I'll show you what plagioclase is. Whoops. The white fibers in that lung. This is a lung, it's been DNA tested, it's human. It came from the Great Flood era, where everything was turned into mud fossils in my area, from the Triassic, and these white fibers in there are plagioclase, and I have them up in a microscope. You can see them. They're fibers. They're long white fibers. They say, "Oh, they're plagioclases. They form from I don't know what." And the same thing when they already talk about feldspar. Feldspar is nothing more than aluminum silicates, and that's what this is. And this is a goose. My buddy Caesar Augustus, and there's his feather pattern right there. Anything that was collagen or kerogens, which is made out of membranes, which is made out of phospholipids, boiled down to aluminum silicates. It's right below that on the periodic chart. Anything with phosphorus, with phospholipids, everything has a membrane. They boil down to aluminum silicates, that's all. It's really very simple when you understand chemistry and anatomy, physiology, all that stuff. It's very simple. But you got to look and you got to think, and then you got to be able to accept what you see and never expected. All right, see, this was a good article. It says the spectroscopic data, that's the different colors, continue to provide the cornerstone for identifying and understanding the regional and global character of lunar compositional variations. And it changes, as you can see, those different colors. And document the key products and processes of crustal evolution. Well, that crustal evolution that I showed you of those colors is because they got ripped away And at one time was a tendon in some kind of creature. That's all I could tell you. All right, you want to see something? How many layers of skin there is? And tissue in general. Look at this. Every one of those is a layer. And that layer is here. And then there's another layer on top of that. And then below that, there's all these little tiny balls. All right, this is how the body can flex and move around, and all the fluids flow through there, through the fluid-filled highway, to deliver the products to make your body work, basically. And the tendon enthesis locks bones and muscles and so forth to your body, so you can pull and do all these kind of things. That ball will have some of these stuck to it, more than likely. And guess what? I think it does. And what ball are we talking about? Well, we're talking about the ball called our moon. And here it is right here. Now, you see these layers here? Remember I just showed you all the different layers of the skin and so forth. Plus, look at there's a layer here, then another layer here, then another layer here, and they're in a sort of a rhythmic pattern coming down. And then there's all this little layering in between. Now, here's the sun coming up. It comes through the atmosphere as green, and I would expect that, just like you see how it's real bright, and then it's blue, and then it's green, and then it's really outside of that, you're into the infrared red area. And that's exactly what is predicted in dipole electron flood theory. The tighter you are to where the emission source is, the bluer the light will be, because it's the stronger it's held. The tighter it's held, the harder it is to pull away. When it starts going away, it goes, because it's being ripped like crazy. And then the green is a little less held, and then the red is just sort of floppy. That's what dipole electron flood theory is. Now, everything plays a part in this. You can't just have one little piece and not the other. You got to understand the whole ball of wax here. Now, is this green? Is something growing here? It could very well be. I don't think they've looked at this the way they should have, as in my opinion, but I don't know. But look at this. You see these layers? Those layers are shadows. And they're patterned. This is not just accidental ripples. Something, I don't know where they were taking that shot from, but if they were taking it in here, looking off through here or that way, whatever, and I don't know. All I'm just saying, I'm not privy to the fullness of understanding this, but I do know what I'm seeing. And that is no question in my mind whatsoever, 100% certainty. That is from a tendon enthesis. All right? It's from a tendon enthesis. And these are the different materials. And they give off a different frequency of light. That's what spectroscopy is all about. I just showed you that article right here. Compositional analysis of the moon in the visible and near infrared regions. Just these same colors I just showed you. Infrared and visible. And they found the mineral, the magnesium spinel anthracite, which is the stuff I have here. I got a ton of that. I got everything that they got. And I understand what it is, and it's the biology of it, and the little balls that are stuck in there. Those are just tiny little anchors. All right, magnesium, da 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 da. I understand the chemistry, the nucleophilic substitution, the invasion. These are the Moki marbles. Those are inside those little moss balls that I showed you. Or I will show you. Which are, where's your little moss balls? They're here, right there, inside, and it's coated with like a meatball, and they eat everything, and inside is the meatball, and it just turns into a stone. Keep on looking for a heart of stone. There it is right there. They eat everything around it. And like I said, I think it's way out to here where it would have started, and they're just nibbling away at it. And a lot of coral, is the same thing. They're eating away at the coral. This is a coral heart. That's a heart. You see the 3 tubes at the top right there? That's the vein, there's 3 main plumbing jobbers coming out of the top of the heart. And then underneath is the valves of the heart. You see that? That's the valves of the heart. There's a strap coming around here. And in the microscope, you can see, you might even be able to see it there. See that red? See the red? This is the heart. That's the top of the heart. They have the 3 tubes coming out, and down here was the chambers. Now this is coral. Coral live and eat body parts that are just laying on the ocean floor, and a lot of it, they may end up with a skeleton, but this is not the skeleton of coral. This is the skeleton of a heart. This was all heart muscle down in here. And it's just they ate everything out that was left, and they left the structural keratin, kerogens, collagens that turn into solid. But that red right there, that's part of blood. We just don't have any idea what the things we're looking at anymore. My son brought me this back after we went on vacation. And there's all your heart tubing right there, those 3 holes. What it's from, I have no idea. But they are all from some kind of a creature. These rocks we're looking at are not just rocks. And these moons that we're looking at are not just moons. It's a shocker. I don't know what else to say. But it's right here on Earth, and nobody can look at this. Oh, these are stromatolites. They just grow there. No, they don't. These are just like the Moki marbles. They're eroding out of the wall, and they're just washing away, and something's eating whatever's left on them to be eaten. And right now, all of like up in Alaska, we got issues up there because these things are thawing out, and this is literally like meat. And it's just meat all over up there. And it's decomposing. It's warming up, just like you left your refrigerator door open. And it's decomposing and rotting, and you're getting the methane gases. Those are hydrocarbons. And they emit, and then they emit under pressure, and then they create earthquakes, and then they create volcanoes like at Mount Spur. I've been monitoring that, and that's on the edge, I would say. They're getting prepared in case they do get hit with a lot of ash fallout, because it's just like volcanic ash from a stratovolcano is literally shards of glass. And I had a bunch of people contact me because I've been doing some about being ready for, in case you need masks, you need this, you need that. Who knows what could happen? Especially if it's getting worse and worse as it gets hotter and hotter. The volcanoes are getting more and more destructive, advanced. They're rotting more and more pressure, more and more explosiveness. Because that's all it is capped off, compressed biology. And it's, there it goes. It's just what it would do if you took it and put it in a can of fresh meat and sealed it up solid, and then just left it there. It would just pow, and it would explode. That's what a volcano is, basically. You got to have the bacteria inside eating away at things, which you do. And once you cap that off, the gases have nowhere to go, and it will explode. And if it's under enough pressure for a long enough time, you'll create all these methane gases, which are very volatile gases. Then you get extreme eruptions and magma flowing, hot coals, and all kinds of things will come out of there. Who knows what? I hate to be critical, but they're talking about fabulous new, remarkable findings. The perseverance of resonance of OH across the surface, and new rock types identified this one I showed you, this anthracite or whatever they call it here, that are not identified in current lunar samples. So they're saying, wow, we found all this fabulous stuff. OH is everywhere. It's everywhere. All right, this is where you got to have a little bit of everything, otherwise you're never going to understand anything. This is the OH minus here, the matter that fills the universe. It's everywhere. This is the minus OH, crystals, ions. Now, this matter called negative ions, which is hydroxyl, we're going to look at in a second. It's a negative ion. It would be responsible for cold in space. All right, I'll explain that later. Also, it would be responsible for heat in the sun's corona. In the sun's corona and around the Earth. And the warming in the Earth. That's why we're getting warmed up, because of this scrub. And the same thing with the sun. I'll explain that uno momento. When this substance, by the gravity of celestial bodies, changes the phase, I'll talk about the phase, and by the solar radiation is ionized. The sun itself is 10,000 degrees. Right on the surface. They can check that out. They measured it. It's 10,000 degrees. I will accept that. They also have measured it way out here, and guess how hot it is out here? Millions of degrees. There's no explanation whatsoever for that. Oh, it was fusion. I said, well, why wouldn't it be hotter here? How did it get hotter out here than it is here? It's ridiculous. It's not fusion whatsoever. It is the scrub of the particles that are being emitted because of its mass as it spins through space, and they're scrubbing its literal atmosphere. This is its atmosphere, just like we have an atmosphere. The sun does too. It's much bigger. And where that light is being scrubbed and trying to get through that atmosphere, it's stripping off, because the sun is also biologically organic. It's giving off hydrocarbons. They know this. They say it's giving off basically hydrocarbons. And when it hits out here, it gets scrubbed and they rip off one of the particles. You have to understand the dipole electron flood theory. It's ripping off one of the dipole electrons, and it's turning it into an ionized particle, a negatively ionized particle. And that's why you have this layer of heat around the Earth. Way out here, it's almost 3,000 degrees. Nobody knows that. Almost 3,000 degrees. And then it gets colder than hell. I mean, colder than cold below that, which is about minus 100 degrees, and then it gets hot again on the Earth. It's a dipole. Hot, cold, hot. And then the Earth is supposed to absorb that heat. The Earth no longer can absorb it. The Earth is overheated. That's why we're having all these terrible problems. And it's, instead of the Earth being able to absorb it, the atmosphere is now absorbing it more and more and more, and pumping up higher and higher. And as it does that, more turbulence, more rain, more hail, more tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, and global heating, which is happening. It's very, very serious now. People say, oh, that just happens. No, it doesn't. Not this time. We have overextended our atmosphere by burning so much stuff that it's just blown up like a balloon. And at that point, it's going to absorb stuff from the sun anyway. It's never going to stop. It comes in here, it doesn't go back out. They think, oh, it just comes in and just floats away. No. It's the scrub that's forcing it in. That's why it's thousands of degrees out here, and it's millions out here. It's trying to force it back in as it scrubs through all the particles in space. And when I say particles, I'm talking fields, particles, dust, meteorites, asteroids, everything you can think of is out there. Once again, just a little more chemistry and biology. Hydrocarbons. Why are those so important? We're carbon-based creatures. Carbon, primary component of all known life on Earth. All known life. That's trees, human beings, everything. It represents approximately 45 to 50% of all dry biomass. It's half of everything, basically. Now, why is that so important? Well, carbon is a very small molecule, atom, and it has 4 little pokers sticking out, which you can hold on to 4 little other things. And it easily bonds. You know, hydrocarbons are methanes and propanol and gases and all that stuff. All your volatiles are hydrocarbons, and that can, well, let me just show you something here. It can rip this off. Here's what happens. As these things come out of the sun, they're coming out hydrocarbons, the same as they are with us, like if we were burning a creature up. And OH can get ripped off. OH minus. It gets ripped off. And that's what the hydroxyl group is, and that's what comes off of hydrocarbons. Whoops. Well, this is what's in space. It's not empty. And every particle, light particle, has to go through these fields. Light slows down very, very quickly. They have no idea where we are in space. None. The Webb telescope is a nice, it shows nice pictures, but that's it. No idea where we are. We go back 200 million, billion, zillion years. No. Anything coming through here is going to slow down. It's as simple as that. And we're seeing all kinds of fields, which any field will oppose another field. Light is the same way. Light is a field. It's a particle, but it creates a big magnetic field. That's what the light is. Now, is this light? This is the moon taken with a cell phone several years ago. I have no access to this anymore. I don't know what the app was. It was just taken with a cell phone, sent to me. Several pictures are very, very stunning. Is this light on top of the moon? Is it on the moon? Is it in the moon? Where are we looking at the moon? Because the moon is always going to be the same. What is over here on the moon? Now, he was down in New Zealand. So the moon to him is where, I don't know. Maybe the moon's upside down there. I don't know. Up here, would we be looking there? Anyway, the blue is the impact, basically, of the moon against oncoming light. And it turns it blue. And it does talk about the blue. Well, maybe I'll show you that in a second. But anyway, the blue is a product of movement through oncoming particles. Just let's go with that. All the rest is just crazy. And all of these things here, they're not that far away from us. I don't know what all this stuff is. But they all have little tiny fields around them. And then you have these gigantic fields, which I believe right behind there is Venus. But I can't be sure. Although, actually, I don't know. I have no idea, to be perfectly honest with you. But this field here is from this field that is, I believe, behind the moon. It's not coming out of the moon. It's coming from something that's behind the moon. And all fields interact with other fields. You see how they push and shove against each other? And this thing here, yikes. That, yikes. And this, yikes. That looks like it's pyramids. And they're traveling back and forth to Atlantis. I don't know. I just don't know anymore, my friends. You know, when you find all the things that I found, you can't just laugh at something. My laughing days are over. I mean, I laugh, but I laugh at the people that can't see what they see. It's just absolutely incredible to me now. At first, it very upset me a lot, but as I kept searching, it said they'll see, but they'll never see. They'll hear, they'll never hear. And the people that really, really wanted to hear this never heard it. It's exactly what it says. They never did get to hear it. And the people that get to hear it don't want to hear it. It's incredible how accurate the ancient texts are. Very, very amazing. Apollodorus 1.6.3, just watch, look, and learn about Typhon, and then go on and his attack on the gods, and then go North Africa. We're living in a whole new world, my friends, a new universe of biology. You see this? Out there's very little atmosphere, I agree. Not a vacuum by any sense. But this outermost layer, low density, agreed. Here's where the scrub zone is. And this is where you get up to 1,500 degrees Celsius. That's close to 2,700 degrees, something like that, I forgot. But this, right at the next layer down, because of the dipole, this is the scrub zone, where you have your OH everywhere. And right below that, you got your freezing zone, which is minus 80 degrees Celsius. So that's 112 minus. So you got like almost 3,000 degrees difference right at that layer. It's a dipole. That's what dipole flood's all about. And then this is where you're getting your huge ice and all that, and it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as it gets hotter and hotter here. It's going to get colder and colder here. And the colder it gets here, the bigger the chunks of ice are going to fall. And then you get down here where it warms up in our zone, and then the Earth is supposed to accept it. And the Earth just can't accept it anymore. It's just too much. You say, whoa, 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 I got enough. I got too much. It's just like you try to heat something up, and it's already hot. You can't heat it up. We used to be able to heat it up. Well, now it's heated up much too much. All right, so from Mimas to our moon, we're looking at the same sort of stuff. And I can account for all these different colors and these layers, and I think we got biology right now growing right in here. Now, I know they didn't, I don't know where they landed or where they're trying to look and what they're thinking about, but I can guarantee you, for one thing, no question whatsoever, these different colors represent different chemistry. Different chemistry, I understand. And you do too if you understand mud fossils. That is the outer coating of this tendon enthesis. This is the membrane. This green is from the fluid-filled highway, in my opinion, and that's where you have all that bacteria growing. That's where it's supposed to live in there. There's no reason it shouldn't be growing there. It doesn't take a lot of oxygen. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of moisture. And there's going to be moisture in it. There's no question whatsoever. There's moisture in everything. It was biology. If it got torn off and it's out in space, you're going to get ionization and it's cooking a little bit of the surface, yes. But below, it's going to have the same characteristics as a tendon enthesis does here. If we figure out where these little buggers go, and we can see them, and maybe we can drill down in that spot. If Elon wants to go up to the moon, or whoever wants to go up there, maybe we go right down in here. I would go for the red blood. But somewhere up in here is going to be fluid. There'll be fluid in there one way or the other. You may have to process it out of body fluids, which could contain blood and whatever, but it's still going to have watery substance in it, and there'll be a lot of it. There'll be plenty of it. But you got to know what to do. You got to know what to go. You can drill over here. You're going to go nowhere. So anyway, that's what I have to offer, and I have a lot more to offer, but I don't know if I should even be talking about this stuff. It's crazy, but it's true. And all I can say is, at the end of the day, I have come to the feeling that the thing about Christ and his statements is saying at the end of the time's coming up, everything will be open, and it'll be up to you to decide. Basically, is what it was. And that's basically exactly the message I got. It said, these things are for you to see and for others as a test. And I'm not kidding you. That's what I just popped right up on my computer after I found the giants. He said, these things are for you to see and for others as a test. Freaked me out. And for, it's going on 15 years now, the test is almost unheard because it's so suppressed by academia. And exactly what the other words they said, there would be false teachers among you, just like there were false prophets then. They were telling everybody do this and do that, and they had no idea what they were talking about. They were wrong about 99% of the stuff probably, and they just enforced it, and if you didn't do it, they burned you to the stake. Here they just put you out, they don't allow you to speak. It's peer review. And they say the guy's insane, make sure everybody thinks he's insane, otherwise we're screwed. And they are. They've already made their own bed, and they're going to have to sleep inside of it. And it's not going to be a good bed to sleep inside of, I don't think. If the things that were written are true, yikes. You don't want to be saying things that are against God just to protect yourself and your status and your income and so forth. That's not a good plan, because life does not last all that long. I was really surprised how quick it goes, because it goes quick. You shall see. Anyway, this is biology, my friends. We live in a biology filled universe, and if this moon is a tendon enthesis, which it is, of that I am 100% certain. And when you look at tendon enthesis, how many there are, even right here, every one of those could be a moon. How big is this universe? How many mansions does my Father have, as Jesus would say? He said it's a multitude upon multitude upon multitude, and boy, I can guess that could very well be. Because from what Mudfossils has turned up, it's just a brand new world. It's just a brand new universe. It's brand new everything. You got to start right from scratch again. And there's no reason to be upset. It's just what it is. And to know the truth is better to know the truth than not. And that's a hair follicle. I've shown my little buddy here 1,000 times. There's a muscle right there. That right there is the sebaceous gland. See it? That's the hair shaft. It comes down to the root ball, and those two dots are the vein and artery. It's 2 inches wide. That's pretty good size. I have other ones here that I have DNA tested. Some of them been CAT scanned, and the DNA tests were human, Homo sapien, mitochondrial DNA. 100% for certain. And I drill deep inside of them, so I don't, and this was one of them that was tested. This was a standard size, about our size. You drill down inside and get the blood, and there's just absolutely saturated with blood when it comes out of here. And it did say it was excellent quality and dense, and it flat, see, because it died in a great flood and actually literally boiled out all the flesh. So that all stuff was true too, the great flood, giants battling in heavens, all of these body parts in heaven, even including the moons are body parts. I mean, it's beyond what I had ever expected, but it just keeps growing and growing and growing in complexity. Some people can accept this, some people just get freaked out and like NASA trying to teach the kids, these are little things hit from space, but space is a vacuum, so none of this stuff is out there, but just accept it. You know what I mean? At NASA, I'm telling you something. I've been trying to work with them for 10 years, more than that. I found that this Mars is saturated, 100% saturated with biology. I mean, everywhere. Mars crab, Morse code, Mars blueberries. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. There's muscle everywhere, and Bennu is muscle. They just brought it back from space, from asteroid Bennu. We spent billions of dollars to do this. And the samples back here on Earth, they're all going to take 10 years or decades. We'll be studying this. It's already done. I knew what it was before they even came back with it. You couldn't miss it. It's biology in space. It's 100%. I got video after video, and I'm going to keep doing them until somebody stands up. And I thought Doge would be totally interested in this, but maybe you got a lot of friends in NASA there, Elon. I would go talk to them, or at least help us with this. All right, you're sweeping a lot of brooms going around. There's a lot of cleaning to do over there at NASA, and Fermilab should be just swept right off. That I presented all my evidence to them over 10 years ago that we found the same particles they've been looking for, and I have been blocked. Well, I'm blocked by NASA too, so it doesn't matter. As far as I know, I'm blocked by everybody because I've never had a return email or any of that stuff. So I see a lot of issues that don't please me, but I'm not easily pleased. All right, I love you all. All I can say is make up your own mind. And this thing I saw last night on the news about how the kids are scrambling to try to get accepted at these colleges. Oh, they're just begging to get accepted. One kid's put out 33 enrollment, I don't know what I'm even going to call them, something that please take me as a student. No. It's not necessary, absolutely not necessary in the first place. Secondly, what you're going to learn is how to repeat what they tell you to say, whether it's right or wrong. And I'm not saying everything's wrong, but if you go for a technical degree, that's different. That's 100% different than going for, what they call a core curriculum. You have to believe this is craters. That's it. You have to believe this. You have to believe that. You can't believe this. You can't believe that. You can't believe in religion at all. Everything was evolution. It all came from slime. And they're trying to push this right now. Yale is right now. I presented them with all my DNA tests and CAT scans and specimens and everything. And then they wrote a paper saying, yes, all this stuff can happen and preserve in that manner, but only jellyfish and stuff. It all happened in this exceptional preservation prior to bones and teeth and shells and anything. It was just slime, because they want to push the evolutionary nonsense. It was creation is creation. It didn't happen from slime turning into life and turning into us. So this is what, and that's Yale. After I gave them all my research, they wrote a paper, took credit for it. We figured it all out, but it was before any of this other stuff existed. However, if you look up the Great Dying, the Great Extinction, there it was right there. It's the same time. All the creatures on Earth died, and they didn't talk about all just slime. They talked about all creatures on Earth. So at that point, Yale is trying to change the dialogue here of what is shown and seen, and my mud fossils that they preserve in this manner because of heavy salts and silicates, and MIT, Harvard, I guess it was, just did a paper. Yes, the oceans did boil, and that was the product of Venus almost hitting Earth. And they cannot take this, and they're not acting as good fiduciaries to the students. They're supposed to be teaching the students truth, and the students are most vulnerable. They have to repeat what they're told. If they don't, they get failed. The people keep their money. How could you be in a more vulnerable position? There's just no more vulnerability that you could be in. And then you're begging them to accept your money so that they can tell you what to say. And then if you could make any commitment, say, well, what about this? Well, can you fit Jesus in here? Can you fit God into this? No, absolutely not. Don't come around here with that stuff. Basically, that's what will happen. Now, they say, oh, no, we accept that. No, they don't. They can say they do, but they don't. And they will treat you like an idiot. And as far as I'm concerned, all of these ancient myths have to be taken into account once again. Typhon and the fish in the desert. I mean, this is Apollodorus 1.6.3.2, right in that area. Hercules, Zeus, Gaia, Tartarus, Typhon, the fish in the desert. The gods changed themselves into animals, and Typhon went after him, and he got the fish. It's all there. So you can walk around in 10 billion circles. You're still going to be walking around in a circle, have no idea what you're doing until you start to stop and examine what I've been showing. When that happens, I'll walk away silently. Well, I'm saying that I probably won't, but I will certainly feel that at least humanity has the ability to see what's right in front of their face, and it's being kept down from you by the ones you trust to teach you. That is my rub, my friends. That is a serious rub. I have no reason to be intimidated. I have the information. I've done my research. I've found that there's just no appetite for truth and reality if it has any effect on somebody's self-interest. Straight across the board, 100%. Nobody's challenging me, not a single one. I haven't had one single challenge, none. They know not to stand up in front of me. They can't. It's impossible. And they just keep doing what they're doing, and people don't stand up for themselves. I can't. To me, it's hard to accept. But that's the way life is, I guess. I thought maybe with this Department of Education thing, we'd get somewhere, but I don't know. I have no idea anymore. I really don't. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. You people better start talking up for yourself, or you're just going to be living in this fantasy realm, being perfectly happy deluded, having PhD-olia, where you can't see what's in front of your face. No, I love you all. And there is something to do with the ancient texts, gods, God, the sons of God, the universe. after seeing this, I would hope you start opening your mind up a little bit. I guess that's just up to the individual. And anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. There's just, I could go on forever because there is forever to go on. It's just a whole new world. It's not a single thing is as was advertised to us. None. Zero. History, chemistry, biology, anatomy, space, light, electronics, atomic model. Even the atomic model's way off. Here's what it should be right here. Dipole electron flood theory. Oscar Rosales set this up for me. This is what every particle looks like. This is what a proton would look like. The dark matter just goes to the center. That's why we never saw it. Anytime you shine something on it, it bounces off. This would be completely coated. The blue, like I said before, goes right down to the center and holds tight as tight can be against the black. Then you got the green comes after that, and then the red is sort of floating around. And that's what we saw up on the moon with this sunlight. You see, there's a bright, there's the blue, real tight, and there's the green coming off, and the red is just sort of background. They call it, you know, microwave background, basically. I mean, a cosmic, it's down in here. You don't really see it. So anyway, is this growing biology out there? Maybe they want to look. Maybe they want to look at that green stuff. Anyway, that's it. I love you all. Thank you. Goodbye.